we're back on 9 here for Black Ops 4 Zombies. We have yet another new Easter egg that just got solved by Jacob the Soviet. Hopefully that name doesn't get me demonetized, but congrats Jacob for finding this. It is a crazy coincidence that 2 days in a row a new Easter egg is found on the map 9. This involves the crowd doing the wave. Now there's so much I want to discuss in regards to this wave Easter egg, and we'll get right into that, but basically all you have to do to get this to work is get Homunculus from the box. Honestly, doesn't take that long. The RNG is pretty steady for the Homunculus on this map, so once you get the Homunculus, all you have to do is throw one into the crowd. Now, this Easter egg could be a little buggy, so I would recommend doing it from the spawn, since many people have reported that when they throw a Homunculus from a window at one of the god towers, it just doesn't work sometimes, so I'm not sure why there's an inconsistency there with the actual Easter egg, but it's Black Ops 4, stuff like that always happens. You know, think of the secret, think of the jump scare from Dead of the Night. There's things that honestly don't make much sense but work whenever they feel like it, so we're gonna stick with that. So once you throw the first Homunculus, you'll see that certain parts of the crowd start doing the wave, and you'll see them moving from left to right all around the entire arena, and they'll repeat this about, I want to say, 3 times. So it's pretty cool to see this. Again, very simple, but what I really want to talk about in regards to this Easter egg is exactly how this was added back in, because you cannot tell me that somebody didn't throw a Homunculus into the crowd. I was in a big party chat last night with a good couple of buddies of mine, and they all confirmed to me that yeah, they definitely tried this many months ago. But here's a fantastic idea that my good buddy Sky actually told me about. This probably was added back in when the St. Patrick's Day event happened not too long ago, right, where there was essentially a free Homunculus Easter egg on the Chaos maps, and it was kind of a weird Easter egg, but if you think about it, that's kind of a hint that hey, there's another Easter egg that could be done with the Homunculus now. And you guys might remember the good old leaker Call of Nobody Cares mentioned this Easter egg back in his massive list of leaks from, I think it was last November. Oh my god, it was a while ago. But he mentioned this Easter egg and mentioned some other ones as well, which we'll talk about in a second, but he did mention a couple of steps that were cut out, and I think some of the steps that were cut out from the map 9 were tied to the wave Easter egg. So similar to the spork knife, Treyarch's like, okay, the Easter egg didn't make it into the game at launch like it was supposed to, but we'll add it back in later once it's fully functioning. So there was obviously a lot of intention to have this working in the game from release, but because certain steps were removed from the map, it changed how this Easter egg was going to play out. Very similar to the spork knife, right? Call Nobody Cares mentioned the gems, he mentioned the actual spork knife model itself, he mentioned how the quest was going to work out, but when the quest finally got added back in, lots of steps were changed. Locations of the actual gems were changed, so many things were changed in regards to the quest. He didn't even know a golden scalpel existed on Blood of the Dead. He thought it was just a spork knife. So again, being a QA tester doesn't mean you have all the answers. Lots of things change behind the scenes in a matter of minutes. You just never know. And that's how game development works. And I've talked about this dozens and dozens of times before. You could have a very reputable leaker, you could have good information from somebody who's never been wrong, but guess what? In a matter of minutes, the information that QA tester knew about, or whoever the source is, could be changed for unknown reasons. That's just how the industry works. But looking at this Homunculus Easter egg now, I'm gonna say this was 100% added back in, and I really want to trust Skyte's idea on this, that when the Homunculus Easter egg got added for St. Patrick's Day, that's when they added this in. It just makes the most sense, and you can even relate this to how when Ethereal Razor, a perk that's centered all around melee kills, was added into the game, that's when the spork knife was added. So putting in a Homunculus Easter egg on St. Patrick's Day, again, could be a very obvious hint that there is another Easter egg tied to them, so here, Homunculus for free, go hunt. That's probably what they were intending on getting across to the community. Now, also keep in mind here, a good buddy Absolem actually gave me this idea now. Since a lot of these unsolved Easter eggs are tied to music, what if we're starting some type of concert here on the map? You have those 8 bowls that you can light up for absolutely no reason. You have steps for this guitar Easter egg, including headshots and getting these sound cues, and then you have the Easter egg at the challenge podium that we talked about yesterday, surviving there for 6 complete rounds and getting intro music to play. Everything is centered around music, so So what if, in no particular order, you have to do all of this and maybe one other thing, and it creates this concert, right, where the 8 bulls light up and maybe they have some other effects to them, like how you would see at a concert with fire everywhere. Then you have the drummers, as Call Nobody Cares said, doing the air guitar emote, and then you have them doing devil horns. The gladiators and destroyers come around and start doing it. What if that's all the Easter egg is? And Call Nobody Cares even said in the Reddit post it was only supposed to give you a random power-up, so it's not a big Easter egg by any means, but does give you a pretty simple reward. And honestly, the better reward besides the power-up is just seeing zombies act out of character. It's something that the community would absolutely adore, and I really hope more information about this gets found soon. But in terms of the guitar emote, this is what gets me now, right? Because I've talked to a lot of sources about this over the past maybe 7 to 9 months, and they mentioned that the actual emote that the drummers and destroyers are supposed to do once the guitar Easter egg is complete was added to the black market, and I'll put it on screen so you can see. I've talked about this a couple of times before. If Treyarch makes an animation for something and even cuts the Easter egg that's tied to that animation, they'll still use that animation, you know, at some point for whatever the reason is, putting it in the black market so you can use it in Blackout or use it in multiplayer. They still will give it a purpose. Now, I want to say there is a wave emote. I don't have it if there is one, but let me know in the comments if you know anything about that. Maybe there is an emote where they do the wave, and it's very similar to the way the crowd does the wave on 9. So another way they're utilizing the actual wave emote here in game. I could be wrong about that, but I know for sure we have the guitar one, which I do have, which I believe is the exact emote the destroyers and drummers are supposed to do on the map once that Easter egg is completed. So the emote exists in game, but based on the information from Call Nobody Cares, there seems to be limited information about what exactly you have to do next. And he knew about a couple of steps, but again, his information is limited. Now, people are also asking about my good buddy Sky and whether or not he's going to be doing a Q&A with the QA tester, as I talked about in a couple of videos. I think this is like maybe 3+ weeks ago, and there is good news about that. He did finally get in touch with them and got a bunch of questions answered, but I think he is going to be waiting for a couple more questions to get answered before he compiles all of it together and does a really exciting video. Once that is in the works, you guys will hear more about that on my channel. I'll be talking about it. Maybe we'll do a video together talking about the information. I cannot wait for that to happen. But yeah, that is a little update on the Q&A I brought up quite a while ago. It does take a while to get in contact with some of these people, and it is very risky because obviously some of these QA testers, you know, sign NDAs, or maybe they're getting sued already. I won't go into that anymore, but basically it is a pretty complicated situation talking to QA testers, talking to people who used to work over at the studio. So we have to be very careful with how we approach these people with our questions. But besides the animation in the black market, it's also worth noting that Call Nobody Cares did talk about a step in the raw basement that got cut, and he knows it got cut. So here's another thing here, right? He no longer works at Treyarch, but maybe the step got cut while he was there, and then a few months later, maybe when the wave Easter egg got added back in, they said, hey, remember that step with raw? Let's put that back in, but modify it a little bit so it's not broken, or whatever the case is. He knew quite a bit, and I think he tested on Voyage the most out of any other map, which is how he was able to help my buddy and I with finding the specific locations of very, very hidden ciphers on Voyage of Despair that nobody else out there had ever seen or mentioned or heard of or even came close to solving. And that's another way he proved his credibility right there, on top of all of these other leaks that he provided us with here to the Reddit community and to everybody else out there. And on top of that, he still kept in touch with a good buddy of mine and myself to inform us on what was going on with the actual development of Black Ops 4 up until the point when he did leave the studio. So again, his information is limited, but I've also brought this up briefly in a previous video. In terms of Treyarch giving us hints, I think this is absolutely wonderful for the community, especially for downtimes like this when there's no new map, no new DLC, no real new updates. Simply coming out and saying, hey, there's an unsolved Easter egg on this map or that map, without going any further with any context or any audio teasers. All they have to say is, hey, there's an Easter egg that hasn't been found on this map, and boom, that keeps the community hunting, streaming, grinding, theorizing, just coming together and collaborating over on many different social media platforms, which keeps the game healthy. And it's that simple. That's all Treyarch has to do, which I think they probably should adapt when Black Ops 5 comes out. That's something they should be doing whenever there is a downtime, because there's always going to be downtime, whether it's in between DLC releases or in between games, or if there's like a bunch of issues going on with stability or they're just focused on other things. That's very simple to keep the community hyped up, and I think with Don't Freeze, it really helped out. But now that we have 2 Easter eggs in a row that got solved on 9, I think you're going to see a lot more people hunting other maps as well, just to see if there is anything. It still blows my mind that Ancient Evil had literally no side side Easter eggs, even though there were kind of a few leads on a few things that look suspicious. But regardless of that, there was no other information about side Easter eggs on the map. Unfortunately, Call of Nobody Cares didn't make it that far, so he doesn't know very much about that map or anything after. But we did get in contact with other sources tied to some very reputable people who did talk a little bit about Ancient Evil, how the budget got cut, and they just couldn't be bothered putting in more side quests to a story that essentially may not ever continue, which is very unfortunate. But another idea that was brought up in my big party chat last night was that what if every Easter egg is actually solved here in Black Ops 4? What if Treyarch's like, okay, they'll figure out the music on the podium, they'll figure out the homunculus, but besides that, there's nothing else really worth hunting, which is why they didn't come out and follow up to the Don't Freeze Easter egg with something else you may not have found. What if the truth is everything is solved? What if the bowls are tied to a cut Easter egg, but for some reason we can still interact with them and light them on fire? What if the guitar Easter egg is truly cut for whatever the reason is, but for some reason they left those steps there in the game? I personally don't think they would do that, but it is still worth thinking about because Black Ops 4 is a very unique experience where we literally saw a full-fledged side Easter egg for a new weapon, the Spork Knife, added in 6+ months after release of the game to a launch map. You never ever have seen that happen with Call of Duty Zombies. You've never seen a development studio go into a game's DLC season very deep in, about halfway in, and update a launch map with a full-fledged Easter egg. You just never see that happen unless something was seriously broken and they had to fix. That's why they would revisit a launch map, but adding something in that absolutely was not there at release is very unique to me. And I've said that ever since the Spork Knife got solved. I'm like, you know, because that happened, anything is possible with any of these other maps going forward. But I do also have a plan to put out a video talking about all unsolved Easter eggs in Black Ops 4. There are still quite a few that have not been solved. We have leads on some that have not been talked about, so I'm really excited to make that video, and I will definitely get to the bottom of that and prioritize that video once all these guides are out the way and some other scheduled videos I have. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite, and peace out, everyone.